Hi Year 12s, I thought I'd do a quick video instead of trying to do a live because I know it's really awkward to get everybody at the same time. Just to talk a little bit about your annotations. Now I've put up absolutely loads of help on the classrooms already with documents and things explaining exactly how to do them. So it's mainly talking about what's on your page, discussing how it relates to your work. It's really good if you constantly remind the moderators how it is all linking in, so it shows with your work then that everything has been considered really well and that there is a point for everything that you do. Okay, so make sure your annotations express that. They want to know about how you think, so think about talking about how you've done something, why you've done it, what you liked about it, what you really disliked about it, if there's anything that you want to improve. It's really good to show artist links in it as well, so if there's an artist that you've been looking at that's really inspired your work, make sure to mention it. Mention exactly how you have learned from that artist. So is it the type of thicker paint they're using, is it the fact that they're using a certain subject, etc. Okay, so all that is already in your notes area, and it's actually talks step by step through your sketchbook, so what pages you should have already completed. Okay, but that's just a very quick reminder. I do want to talk a little bit about thinking about imaginative ways to your annotations. So it does not always just need to be written straight out in your book. You could be using acetate. Okay, so we've got this here. You can also, if you've got home, a laminator, a laminating sheet, do it on that. Use a Sharpie. You can be using different colours on this to get it a different effect. So, for example, I could be writing my annotations on here. The really good thing about doing it on a piece of acetate is that afterwards, oops, sorry, can you see it here now? There we go. Afterwards you can mount it on your work and you can see your work straight away underneath it. It's really nice if other people are looking through your book, so they still got the wow effect of your work without getting blocked by loads of writing straight away. Okay, so this really nice way to do it. It can go over the top of photographs, you can have it over the top of your work, you can always put hole punches at the side, and you can tie it into your book as well. Now, it is really important when you're doing your book and your annotations and your backgrounds to be thinking about things that go well with your project. So for example, if you're doing a very natural based project, there's no point in doing like crazy bright colours everywhere and like metallic things. Okay, but if you were doing something to do with buildings and industry, then it might be worth doing that. If I was doing a natural project, I might be thinking about things like your brown paper. It can be from your packages you're getting through the post. Think about how to make it interesting. So you could be ripping the edges as well to make it interesting. You could even be ripping sections out of it. You can, as well as ripping sections out of it, you can be, if you're very careful, be using things like sandpaper or even burning it slightly around the edges to give it different effects. Okay, so if you're doing nature, you could be doing something like this. Sorry, just turn my visualize a little bit. So you can be using something like this and creating effects. You can also be adding paint and things on there as well before adding your writing. Okay, but think about what project you're doing when you're doing this. Okay, so that's the second thing that you could be thinking about. You could be using things like tissue paper, or even paper like this. So we've got a few different types in the actual department. So we've got this thicker tissue paper that's really useful to use on your actual work. So if you're going to be drawing on top of photographs and adding extra depth. All this, by the way, amazing to do on top of your photographs as you're going along. If you're doing it on top of like your photography page, it's showing a lot more experiments, and you could be picking up some things. So like in a portrait, you might want to be picking up a certain part of somebody. You could be writing words over the top of it. If you're doing, it depends what project you're doing, but you could be trying to focus more on something by using your pen and acetate to kind of zoom in on that fact as well. Okay, so this isn't just about annotations, think about your other work as well. Yeah, so we've got thicker tracing paper. We've got tissue papers. This is actually just paper that comes with the acetate. That's quite shiny and nice to use as well. So you could be writing on any types of these. Think about what pens, if it does smudge on these types of things as well. But it's really interesting effects and a little bit different than just writing straight into your book. You could be doing a natural project. So drop everything. Use something like this. So it's corrugated cardboard. Again, you could be able to be getting this over the post, especially if you're like me and has had to do lots of online shopping, as I ended up isolated for a little bit. So you can be using corrugated cardboard, ripping some of it up, and you can either be scratching away some of this top area here and then writing underneath, or sticking something over the top, okay? So that will work really well if you're doing a natural type of project. You've seen all this type of stuff already that we got in the department, our shiny stuff. Okay, so you could be writing on top of some of these. Now, if you're using colours, think about your colour theory. Okay, now I know most of you already know all this, so I'm going to bore you a little bit again. But your cold colours is for when you're feeling sad. So if you're doing something about emotions, you might want to be using blue if you're looking at a very sad project. You could be using things like reds to represent danger or anger, and that's your warm colours as well. You could be using more your greens and things, so your natural colours if you're doing something to do with nature or landscapes. Okay, they could even just be using brightly coloured cards. Okay, so it's absolutely up to you what you're doing your annotations on, but I want you to really think about how you're presenting your work. You can always be painting something, then adding white paper on it afterwards and writing on that. You can be thinking about how you're concertinaing up your paper, so it doesn't just need to be a block written bit. Instead, like your photographs, you might be wanting to make a section that folds out in your work. So if I just fold this section here, and you can add your photographs as well to go alongside it. So if I've got this here, concertina effect, I might always have my photograph here, pull it out, my written work here, and then more writing. Okay, so you can do something like that as well. You can have it as a little booklet. You can be thinking about envelopes. You can be thinking about pulling something and it coming out. Okay, so just think really carefully about interesting ways to do it. Doesn't always need to be block, and it's really awkward if you just got like a mass bit of writing on a piece of paper that's blocking completely the work that's on the page. We want to see your amazing work as soon as we open up your sketchbook. We don't want to have to be moving loads of bits of text because it just doesn't get the same view. Okay, so think about that when you're doing your annotations. Absolutely loads of help for you in Google Classrooms. Think again when you are doing your photography. It could even be on any of your pages that you're doing photography on, about adding things like tracing paper, drawing over, acetate. You could be thinking of sewing into things, okay, and making it really, really, really interesting, this project. They really like it, and you get to remember 25% of your marks looking at your experimental work, so how you use different types of media, and that also involves how you're recording things and how you're putting everything together. Okay, so if you've got absolutely any questions at all, give me a shout. I'll put a tutorial up on Google Classrooms, or if there's anything especially that you need to work on. Over Christmas, you should be looking at your artist pages, so thinking about an artist that really, really relates to your project. We've already done a lesson about that, and you should have the information there. If you're stuck, write it out, send it over to me. I'll have a look over and mark it and send it back to you, so that you know what you've got there is actually what you're supposed to have. Okay. As well as that, after Christmas, if we are for any reason online learning, I am going to be doing a proper lesson where I do expect everybody to attend as well, and we will continue to work on a page then, and we'll try to do a page that we can all do together via this, just so that you don't start to forget about your artwork a bit. Okay, now remember, I know exams in other subjects being cancelled. We are 100% coursework based subject, and this book is going to be continuing on to next year. So if you're getting behind, you are going to have to catch up at some point. So it's brilliant if you're using this week in all the hours that you're supposed to have art and the normal hours you do outside of school doing your artwork to get it all caught up on. Okay, but please email or comment if you need anything at all. And I'll see you after Christmas, and I hope you have an amazing time. Okay, bye everyone.